So touching on just YCharts as a whole first here, YCharts functions as an investment research and client communications platform. So going to be able to dig into stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, indices, economic indicators for research purposes and viewing how those various different securities might be performing or be allocated or have changed over time, as well as place them into portfolios for overall analysis. And then on the other hand, going to be able to take that information into things like charts and PDF reports and various different visuals to communicate those various different insights that you might be finding in YCharts with clients or prospects. One thing that we will discuss a little bit today is that there are a few different tiers of YCharts available depending on what you might most need the platform to do. So the highest tier of YCharts is the professional tier. That would get you access to all of the different tools here underneath this tools menu. Think of this as being beneficial if you really need to do some of that in-depth research. So maybe you're digging into stock or fund screening for clients, applying different filters and needing to narrow down different investment possibilities. You might need to do some heavy comparative analysis in our table tools like comp tables or time series analysis, or even bring that information into Excel via the Excel add-in, as well as potentially building portfolios, reporting on the information that you're looking at within here. So professional tier is going to be all encompassing of the information and different capabilities of the YCharts platform. If you aren't doing as much research on your end, maybe you're using the investment team's models or something along those lines, we do always have a presenter tier available as well. The presenter tier is going to be more so focused on that client communications end of the platform. So you're going to still be able to look at individual securities, funds, indices, quick economic information, just to have an overall market overview, as well as being able to kind of do some quick research on different securities. But then mainly the presenter tier is kind of built for building portfolios to analyze, say, client or prospect portfolios, compare them against different models and run reports off of those to be able to share information with clients. So really going to be focused on the client communications aspect, as I mentioned. We'll kind of touch on some of those different tier breakdowns as we walk through here. Coming into the platform itself, though, you'll see when you come onto YCharts, you have a dashboard within here. So think of this as your home page within YCharts. You're going to be able to build out charts or watch lists within your dashboard to monitor the information that's most important to you. This can be overall market and economic type information. It can also be specific securities that you need to keep an eye on, portfolios that are important for you to track, whatever that information might be. You'll see you can have various different tabs of your dashboard across the top here. Up to 8 different tabs are accessible. Think of this almost like browser tabs. So typically it's helpful to set up the tabs to allow you to organize some of this information. You'll see I have a market overview, a portfolios tab within here. You'll see, depending on the type of information, there might be different ways that you want to display it. For instance, for my portfolios, I have watch lists set up here on the left, which are these kind of groupings of securities, economic indicators, portfolios, whatever that might be, as well as charts on here on the right, so that I can quickly see performance information, how these might be changing over time. This setup is possible for any information that you might want to keep a close eye on. You will notice for the watch list perspective within here, there are multiple tabs of the watch list. So you have this overview tab of a watch list, which is always going to allow you to just view some quick performance information. It'll be the previous close performance or intraday performance, just depending on what security type you have within your watch list. You do also always have these subsequent tabs, though. Data is just going to allow you to look at some more information on whatever you have within your watch list, so that you can view that information quickly and easily in one place. If you have portfolios within here, you're also able to look at some of those holdings of the portfolio, can set up alerts, things along those lines. One thing about just kind of YCharts in general is that a lot of this information is customizable. So you will always be able to customize the view of your watch list. You can see I can edit data columns. I can edit my watch list on the fly. I can bring this watch list into different tools. So it's going to be really flexible depending on how you want to view that information. And then you'll see here, if I scroll down to the bottom, I'm always able to add a module onto my dashboard. So each of these individual items that we're seeing here, the watch list, the charts, the heat map down here towards the bottom, all of those are different modules. You can build your dashboard as needed. You'll see here on the left, there's a few different ways that this information can be shown. We can bring in charts. We can bring in those lists within here. You will notice that watch lists are split out into two different sections, just security lists, which encapsulates everything except for economic indicators, and then economic indicator lists. If I were to come to create a watch list, you'll see I do have a couple of different options here. I can create a new watch list. This is going to be helpful. Maybe if you want to grab a grouping of portfolios, or there's a list of tickers that you want to monitor that are important to you, you can create a new watch list from scratch within here. All that you have to do is enter a watch list name, and then you can either search for those securities or portfolios one by one just within this search bar here, either by ticker or by name. Or if you happen to have a long list of tickers in Excel or something similar that you know that you want to group together already, you can also batch copy and paste into this field and get all that information into the platform at once. That is going to be the way that you'd set up a watch list if you wanted to build it from scratch, and it's a grouping that you've set rather than maybe a market grouping. You will see, though, there's also this select a list from my library. If I select that, you will see that this is going to let you access preset groupings of stocks, funds, and other security types. You'll notice that it opens us up into equities. These are going to be preset market groupings of equities. So maybe I want to grab the constituents of an index within here on the left, or I want to grab all of a sector or industry for stocks and create a watch list. That's a possibility. Very similarly, underneath this funds tab, you can grab all of a fund category and create a watch list from there. Probably most powerfully, though, is going to be this My List section here for you in the upper left-hand corner. This is going to be most impactful when you've spent a little bit of time in your YCharts account, or maybe information has been shared with you. If you've built something elsewhere in YCharts, maybe you've created a portfolio, or you've built a watch list previously, or you've set up a screen, you can bring that saved information directly onto your dashboard in the form of a watch list as well. You don't have to duplicate your efforts throughout YCharts. You're going to be able to access that information really quickly and easily within here. So as you can see, really flexible in terms of customization of your dashboard. I'll come up here, though, towards the top, because in YCharts, we do try to make it easy for you for some of those more popularly accessed areas, so that you're not necessarily having to always build everything from scratch within your account. You'll see if I come up to this manage section here in the upper right-hand corner, think of this like your kind of dashboard control center. So your different tabs are going to show up within here. You'll be able to access any dashboards that may have been shared with you. So that's always going to be accessible. You know, if there are StoneX dashboards that apply across the group, all of these can be shared. You don't have to duplicate each other's efforts. Similarly, there's also this dashboard templates section here. These are dashboards that our team at YCharts has put together in terms of what we see frequently used within here for overall market and economic type information. These can simply be added just by clicking on them. You'll see you're able to rename them, and if you're happy with it, you can just hit create. It will then create a tab for you across the top here. These are still flexible for you. You can still add to them, change things, customize things along the way. You'll see that I have quite a few brought in across the top here. Really just gives you that nice jumping off point for that maybe overall applicable information for the market and economy within here, so that you don't have to build everything within your account from scratch. Can bring in a few different templates, maybe have a few different customized dashboards, and really access that information as needed. Like I mentioned, this dashboard section, though, is largely just going to be your homepage. So great for that market monitoring, but a lot of the capabilities of the rest of the site can be explored across this black bar here at the top. First and foremost, you have this search bar at the top. This will take you to individual pages within YCharts. So if you need to look at an individual stock, if you need to look at a fund, you can simply type in that information here at the top. Similar to the watch list, you can search by ticker, you can search by name within here. So for instance, I can pull up Apple. That is going to take me to Apple's stock page within the site. You will see every stock within here and every security just in general is going to open up into the quote page. So just giving you a quick overview in terms of performance. If it's a fund, maybe looking at allocation information, you'll see for stocks, this will include earnings and analyst coverage, things along those lines. You do, though, always have these subsequent tabs across the top of the page, though, to dig into a particular area in more detail. So if you're concerned about performance, first and foremost, you can come into this performance tab, see performance of Apple against some peer companies in quite a few different ways. This same basic navigation works for funds. Like I mentioned, can do this by ticker or by name. So if we know that we need a Fidelity Growth Fund, for instance, you can search just like that. It will bring you to a fund page when you've selected it. Very similar to stock pages and setup, though obviously just focused around funds and their data in particular. Finally, you can use this search bar also for economic data within YCharts. So we will carry economic indicators. If you need to look at, let's say, inflation, for instance, that is something that you can type in and search for within here. Economic data will show up down towards the bottom. If you select the economic indicator that you would like to view, it will bring you to it. You'll be able to see both the current inflation rate in this instance, as well as a chart showing historical inflation and a table showing that historical information as well. So really easy to access the various different items that you might need to pull up and quickly look at within YCharts. That will be applicable to both kind of the professional and the presenter tiers that we discussed previously. Outside of the search bar, there are two different areas here to the left that you'll come into. This data dropdown is going to be helpful just for kind of quick touch points of what's going on overall in the stock market, what might be happening in the fund space, what's going on in the economy. Not so much analysis that you need to do within these data pages, but great for those quick touch points, the quick overview. Almost think of these in a way as a complement to your dashboard, I would say, where you're able to see some of that quick monitoring type information. As an example, if I click on this stocks page here, you'll see this is going to give me a heat map. This chart at the top is going to be the major indices. I can toggle between different timeframes to view that information. Following those performance charts at the top, I will have this performance by index section here. You'll see I'm going to have the various different indices. These are always customizable if there are certain indices you like to keep an eye on, or there's a certain order you prefer across the top here. Various different trailing timeframes. So let's say I want to look at the S&P year to date. I can see the top gainers in the S&P and top losers. This is just going to be in terms of raw performance. If, though, I wanted to combine that performance with market cap to see what's really pulling up the index or pulling down the index, I can view that information down below here. So NVIDIA is up 20% this year, but based off of its market cap, it is what the stock that is most pulling up the index year to date. Here in the upper right-hand corner, I can see that NVIDIA has added essentially 28 points to the S&P so far this year. So able to capture quick trends within this page, see what different events might be happening, and then just to round out the page, we'll have the sectors down here below. Similarly, you can change the time frame depending on what you might need to look at, able to see the performance of each sector, as well as 6 of the largest stocks by market cap within that sector, just to give a little bit of extra context. Similar pages can be found within the data tab for the various different other options. So for instance, if you needed to take a look at the economic indicators, you'll see this information within here broken out by the various different major market economies. Always able to come onto these pages just to get a quick overview of the various different areas. Moving into this tools menu, this is going to be where you'll do a lot of your analysis. So whenever you need to compare items, whether that be through charting or through kind of comparative analysis within tables, maybe doing some screening for possible stock or fund selection within here, You'll see you're able to kind of manage your watch lists if you need to within this same section. The most popular tool, though, by far, and probably what you would use the most, is going to be this portfolios tool here underneath the manage section. This is something that is accessible to both the presenter and the professional tiers. You will see when you come into the portfolios tool, any portfolios that have been built or shared with you from the team will appear here by default. You are also able to create new portfolios here in the upper right-hand corner. I'll go ahead and hit this create new, and we'll kind of walk through this process. Most of the time, you'll probably be creating this blank portfolio, and that's what we'll focus on today. Dynamic portfolios, on the other hand, are going to allow you to track holdings changes over time. So helpful more so for, I'd say, the management of models and seeing accurate performance and risk information for models over time. But when you're just looking for a snapshot of a portfolio, or maybe you're entering in prospect information and want to back test it, this blank portfolio will allow you to do so. When I've selected that, you will see a few different options show up within here. Benchmark is going to allow you to create custom blended benchmarks within the system. If you need to create a 60-40 benchmark, if you need an 80-20 benchmark, and want to have that populate for a portfolio that you create, you're able to create those benchmarks really quickly and easily within the platform. You can control the benchmarks of model portfolios to be those custom blended benchmarks. They can also just be indices within the platform as well. And then you'll have model portfolios, so built more for your strategies, as well as client portfolios, which is more so meant to look at real portfolios. So client portfolios, prospect portfolios, information along those lines. I'll go ahead and click on the client portfolio. It's all going to be fairly similar in setup, though, within here. When I hit create, you'll see this will take you to our portfolio creation page. You are able to enter in a name for your portfolio. So let's just say this is John Smith's portfolio. An optional description if you need extra information. You'll see you can control that benchmark. It defaults the S&P, but that can be an index or a blended benchmark that you've created or has been shared with you. You're able to set the rebalance frequency of that portfolio. We're able to set when the advisory fee is charged. So let's say we've got a quarterly advisory fee. And then if you select a advisory fee frequency, you are then able to input an annual fee. So let's just say we charge 90 basis points annually. This data input, this is going to be the format that you have this information in. So we can accept shares, dollars, weights within portfolios. If this was a model portfolio, it would also have a target weight option. This is just going to be whatever is most convenient for you. Finally, and probably importantly within here, there is this start of series. This is going to be the time frame that your portfolio should begin. So it defaults to first common, meaning that this portfolio's performance and risk history will begin on the first common date that all of the holdings are in existence. Once everything is on the market, our portfolio will begin. You do always have the option of starting your portfolio from a custom date or from the oldest holding, so the earliest possible time frame, and layering in those additional holdings as they come into existence. In terms of holdings, you can enter them in the site just by simply searching for them by name, by ticker, and entering in the weights, dollars, or shares, whatever information you have. You are also, though, able to utilize this upload data section here in the upper right-hand corner. If I click on upload data, this will have a template that can be downloaded. This is just a basic CSV template, and it will allow you to enter in tickers and weights, dollars, or shares within this template as well. So whatever is easier for you to get that information into the system, you can utilize that. You'll see it's as simple as entering in the ticker, entering in that weight, dollars, shares. You'll see there are a couple additional columns within here. These are optional, but if you did want to upload average cost basis to look at unrealized gains or losses within the portfolio, or you wanted to backfill performance for a security with a performance proxy, that's always going to be an optional addition for you as well. So in this instance, I'll just go ahead and save this. We can use this example. I'll drop my file. It'll always just be at the top of your downloads. and then I can save that portfolio. And you'll see that will take us back out to that main portfolios page, and it will begin to calculate for us. In the interim, while we're waiting for that to calculate, I'll just go ahead and open up a different one within my account. When I open up a portfolio, you'll see this looks a little bit similar to those funds and stock pages that we looked at briefly earlier. I'm able to look at an overall quote page for my portfolio, see quick performance, allocation, holdings, risk information within here. I'm also going to be able to view the information across the various different tabs. So really able to dig into performance information on my portfolio if I need to see how it did on a 5-year basis versus the benchmark I've assigned, or maybe see each calendar year. That information is going to be possible to view within here. I can also dig into allocation information for that portfolio. So overall asset allocation information, but also more granularly looking at region or country exposure, looking at stock sector, bond sector, style exposure. All of that is going to be possible to view on an allocation basis. I can get as specific as I'd like to within these different pages. If I need to look at individual equity exposure across my portfolio, look at what stocks am I most exposed to across the different holdings. You can see I've got 1.8% exposure to Apple in this portfolio, and that's coming from my holding in SPY. Some of these might be coming from multiple different holdings. You'll see that information is always accessible to view within here. There are a lot of different options for you across the top here. If you need to look at holdings information, if you need to look at attribution, performance attribution within your portfolio, you maybe need to see how this portfolio has done during various different economic timeframes. All of that is possible within here. All of these are kind of applicable to both of the tiers within YCharts. You can view this information, like we mentioned, on real portfolios, so client and prospect portfolios, as well as model portfolios within the platform. You are able to do your own analysis across these various different tabs. You are also able, though, to bring this information into a report. So you will always see this reports button in the upper right-hand corner of stocks, funds, portfolios within YCharts. This will take the information that you are seeing and bring it into a PDF report for you. If I click on this reports button, you are going to see here on the left, there are multiple different report types within YCharts. These are largely just going to differ in terms of the number of portfolios or funds that they include. Comparison reports are really the most popular option. That is going to be comparing two portfolios against each other. So really your classic side-by-side, current versus proposed. You can always include a benchmark in addition to the number of portfolios in each of these reports. You'll also have overview reports. These will focus just on a singular portfolio. So if you need to do a deep dive, maybe into a current portfolio, or you just want to look at a model, you can always run an overview report. Multi-comp reports are going to allow you to look at 3 to 6 different portfolios within the platform. And then finally, tear sheets will just be a quick one-pager on that portfolio, on the fund or stock that you're looking at. If I were to generate a comparison report, for instance, I've got a portfolio already pulled up within here. You'll see there are a lot of different report samples that you'll see in your account. I have even more probably within mine. The thing to point out here is that these are all fully customizable. So we will always start you off with some different report templates so that you have a jumping off point, but those are able to be customized, and we'll kind of talk through that customization process here in a second. Typically, though, I recommend beginning with our side-by-side comprehensive report or our comprehensive overview report if you're running an overview report, simply because this is one of our more robust reports within YCharts. So it's a great place to start when you want to just see the various different options of what can be included in a report. I'll go ahead and select that, hit start. You'll see this is where I want to put in what I want to compare my portfolio to. So I'll go ahead and enter in another portfolio that I have in my account. This is when you would have maybe a model portfolio that's already loaded in, and you'd be comparing it to a client portfolio. Really, this is kind of the core workflow of that presenter license, being able to build portfolios within the system, run comparisons against maybe StoneX models that are also in the system, and generate reports to share with a client or a prospect. You'll see mine is including what we call talking points. This is if you wanted to call out some particular areas in your report. This is not something that's always necessary, but if you had particular areas of focus with a client or a prospect, you maybe want to call out expense ratio or stock exposure and how those differ between the couple of portfolios. That is always a possibility to include in reports like I have for this one. You're always able to then populate a cover page, and I will generate that information, that report here, and it will download for us in a second in the upper right-hand corner. I'll apologize in advance. I know it takes a second longer for this information to download when I'm sharing my screen here. So will be a lot faster for you when you're generating it yourself. When I open this report, the first thing you'll notice is that it will bring in a logo. It will bring in various different firm colors and disclosures. So that information will all be within here. You'll see it's going to call out some of that information that we want to focus on in the proposal here. And then as I come down below into the report itself, you're going to see a lot of the information that we saw within those various different tabs of the YCharts platform, but now brought into this nice report for us. So this one looks at performance, allocation information, risk information, holdings overlap. So really taking a comprehensive look at that portfolio. We'll touch on in a second how this can be trimmed down, how you can customize it further, and some information along those lines. So that'll be a quick look at a report. You'll see there's more pages within here, but definitely a place to come in and explore as needed and see which areas of the report you like, what you might want to focus on customizing. You can customize multiple different reports in your account if there are different ways that you want to look at that information. Where that is possible to do is in this report builder tool. So this is kind of the main place that we're coming to first that won't be accessible on the presenter tier. So presenters have access to reports. You're able to generate reports. You're just not able to customize reports yourself. That being said, if one of your colleagues who is on the professional tier customizer is a report that might be applicable for you, that report can always be shared. You can still generate custom reports. It's just the custom reporting itself that you won't be able to build with the capabilities of that tier. So I'll come into the report builder here. What you will see is this is going to show me all of my reports. These are the same ones that are showing up in that report button. When I click on them, you'll see the report type is called out here. You can edit reports within this section. You can also share and duplicate reports, but probably most importantly, you can create new reports here in the upper right-hand corner. When you're creating those reports, you can start them from a blank page if you'd like, build it completely from scratch. Most of the time, though, I would recommend starting from a YCharts template. Those will be kind of some of those pre-canned reports that our team has put together. Gives you a nice jumping off point so that you don't necessarily have to build everything from scratch. So maybe we wanted to customize a comparison report. I'll go ahead and start that comprehensive side-by-side report within here. You'll see what this is going to show me is then essentially that report that we were just looking at, except now none of the data is filled in because this is going to be the template itself. This will be applicable to any number of portfolios that you want to generate this report for in the future. It is not a one and done type report. You are able to recycle the same templates for different portfolios and different circumstances. So I'll go ahead. I'm going to edit the name of this report. You'll see that's going to take me into this little settings section. Maybe I'll call this StoneX report, for instance. Can edit the description. You can also edit if you'd like the benchmark to be included by default. You'll see when we come into this report, though, we have this page preview, essentially, page view, I should say, within here. You're able to add a page. You can duplicate pages. We can also delete pages within here. So let's say, for instance, when we were going through here, we have this expanded region exposure module. Maybe that's a little bit too granular for the conversations you're typically having with clients or prospects. We can simply delete that page as needed within here. Similarly, if there's something else we want to bring in, I can bring in a new page either at the top or between pages themselves. You'll see when I do so, that brings you into our page editor. This is where all of the different modules of the report are stored. So all the different items that can be brought into a report will live within here. You'll see we break them out into different areas. One area that we kind of showed earlier was that stress test tab of the portfolios. Maybe I want to bring that information into my report. You'll see it's here within risk. You'll also notice that on the left, there are either fractions or the full number one within here. This is going to be the amount of page that module takes up. So the stress test is a full page module. This is all going to be drag and drop capabilities. So I can bring that stress test module into here. Once it's here on my page, you'll notice too that you can reorganize those modules as needed if I wanted to move things around. You can also customize details of the modules themselves. So for instance, if I click on this stress test module, you'll see I have information here on the left. I can rename it if I'd like, enter a new title. If I prefer for this information, for instance, to be shown in a bar chart rather than a line chart, I can make that change. I can also control which stress tests in particular are showing up, because there are only 6 that fit on the page, and there's more economic timeframes that we have stored or that you can create. You can always browse for those stress tests or search for them and say, okay, maybe instead of some of this information that's showing up within here, I want to make sure that the financial crisis is included, for instance. I can include that, hit submit, and then I'll just have to remove one of my stress tests because there are only 6 spots. So you can really control this information. That's going to be true as well for any time that you have various different metrics or stats pulling into a module. You'll see I can click on that module. I'm able to edit this information. Maybe I don't frequently talk about alpha with my clients. That's not something that I want to have come in here. I can get rid of that and say, you know, I want dividend yield to show up instead, or whatever that might be. So a lot of flexibility within these modules. You'll notice too, I can toggle this view securities on if I want to take a look at a report preview within here. So I'll go ahead and just use those same models we were looking at previously, add a couple of them into here. And you'll see this information is now going to populate with my colors as well as with the data itself to give me a look at what this report would really look like in practice. This could then be saved. So I'll go ahead and save this report here in the upper right-hand corner. Going forward, you can generate this report directly from the report builder. You'll notice though, if we navigate back to portfolios, and I open up that portfolio we built earlier together. If I come into that same reports button that we were in earlier, we just built a comparison report. These are alphabetical. So I'll come down to the S section and you'll see here's that StoneX report that was just built. So you're always going to be able to access it in the future. You can build out as many of these custom reports and as needed. You can also see here that they can be shared with you from colleagues as well. They can be owned by you or by someone else. So everything within YCharts can always be shared. That's going to be kind of a quick look at reporting and portfolios within the system. Lots of more capabilities within here, but just scratching the surface today. Next up here, just to kind of close the loop on areas that are maybe most applicable for this team, we'll touch on screening. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this is going to be an area that is going to be very research heavy, so only accessible on that professional tier. I'll come into the fund screener. We do also have a stock screener. They work in the exact same way. So knowledge for one applies to the other. Our screeners in YCharts are kind of split out into 2 different sections. And this is going to be true for a lot of just YCharts information in general. We will have a qualitative section up with this modify button, and then a quantitative filtering section with metric filters here. This is going to allow us to narrow down our universe through those 2 different filter types to view what funds we want to fit within our criteria. Modify up at the top, like I mentioned, is that qualitative aspect. So if I open this up, this is going to let me narrow down the universe of funds that I want to be looking at. So you'll see here on the left are the different categories of qualitative filters. Maybe I want to only look at a specific fund type. So for instance, if I wanted to only look at mutual funds or only look at ETFs, I could do so. I'll go ahead and select ETFs as an example. Next here is category name. So that if there's a specific fund category I want to look at, that's another possibility within here. Let's say in this instance, we'll kind of keep it fairly broad. I'll narrow down to large growth ETFs in this instance. You'll see we can always look at a certain share class if we'd like to, if we're looking at mutual funds. If we need to look at just Fidelity funds, we can come into a specific fund family. Maybe we need to look at a prospectus objective, whatever that information might be, we can do all of that. I'll say, let's look at also for them to have a prospectus objective of growth. I'll submit within here. You'll see we're now down to 90 funds here in the results. And here are the various different line item filters that we just added. So we're starting with all funds. We then narrow it down to just ETFs, then large growth ETFs, and finally large growth ETFs with the prospectus objective of growth. Once we're happy with our qualitative universe here of 90 funds, we can then come into that metric filter section here. So I can come to add a filter. This is a slightly different setup than those qualitative filters, since now we're looking at that quantitative information. Let's say we want a certain return for our security. So maybe we want our ETFs to have a certain 1-year return. I'll go ahead and start typing that out. I'll just select total returns. You can always browse our entire metric library as well. You'll see it at first here, we're in this range section. If we want a range of 1-year returns, if we want it to fall between 5 and 8%, let's say, just as an easy example, you can do that here. Most of the time, though, you'll be in this equation section here. So equation is going to bring your returns, your metric that we entered in, up towards the top. We then have a drop down here. This can be greater than, less than, whatever that might be. Let's say we want 1-year total returns to be greater than 18%. Since we're looking at large growth ETFs, these should have been doing well over the past year. I can hit submit here. You'll see I'm now going to have this 1-year total returns column. We knocked out 23 funds with that filter. Here we now have 67 funds as a result. Maybe I want to add another filter. Let's say we want to look at expense ratio now. I'll come back into that equation section, type in expense ratio, and we want an expense ratio maybe less than, let's say, 10 basis points. I'll submit, and now we have 8 funds. So you'll see it's going to show us those 8 funds. If we're happy with these results, we could then come here to the right. There are metric columns, there are info columns. This will allow us to add more columns to our table here without narrowing down our results. Metric columns is going to let us add quantitative information. Info columns is going to be qualitative information. So info columns, I can open up here. You'll see there's fund info within here. Maybe I want to see what the prospectus benchmark index is here, for instance, or whatever that might be, or the fund family. I can select those, hit submit, then we're going to have those columns added. Similarly, I can add in metric columns. This is going to be all that quantitative information. So let's see what the alpha versus category is. Let's add in some further performance metrics. You can kind of bulk select within here, add in those columns and see that information. You'll see this won't narrow down our screen. It simply adds in more information for consideration. All of these various different columns can always be sorted as well. So if we want to sort by 1-year returns, for instance, clicking the title once will sort in ascending order. Clicking again will sort us in descending order within here. If this is a screen that you wanted to revisit, I always recommend saving it here in the upper left-hand corner. Throughout the tools in YCharts that aren't the portfolios tool, you will have this new fund screen unsaved, new comp table unsaved, new fundamental chart unsaved drop down here in the upper left-hand corner. Think of that like your file button. You can save funds, you can reopen saved or shared fund screens from here. You can also access this new from template section, very similar to the templates we've seen already. These are going to be commonly accessed screens by various different clients. So helpful for both idea generation and seeing different options for how to set up screeners, as well as incorporating these into your research if any of these accomplish what you're looking for here. Once a screen is saved, like we mentioned too, you can always share that information. So you can share this with the team if it's helpful for any users that you're connected to via your YCharts account to share. You can also set up alerts on the screen once you save it if you want to be alerted if a stock or a fund enters or exits the screen that you have set up. That's always possible. So all of this will let you build out a screen from scratch, and you can make these as complex or as simple as you'd like. One nice area of YCharts, though, is if you are already looking at a fund and you just want to screen off of that fund. So let's say we've got this MGK fund right here. I'll just go ahead and click on it. Maybe we're taking a look at this. This is the screen that a client or a prospect holds, or maybe a wholesaler came in and wanted to talk to you about this fund. And you want to see how this fund is doing relative to its peers and just do some quick peer analysis. You could build out a screen from scratch that looks at large growth funds and maybe looks at the same category index with the same category objective and build out that screen. Or you can leverage this quick flows tab here on the right edge of the screen from YCharts, within YCharts, I should say. So quick flows is always going to be right here by the scroll bar. Quick flow stands for quick workflows. So it's kind of those most common workflows within YCharts from a fund page, from a portfolio page, from a stock page. You'll see it will grab what you're looking at. So it's grabbing this ETF for us already. You can always override that here at the top. And then each of these hyperlinks here will bring us to pre-built analysis geared specifically towards this ETF in this instance. And you will see this similar security section in the middle is going to bring us to pre-built fund screens. So for instance, I can find similar fund here. If I click on that, this is going to take MGK, look at MGK's broad asset class, its fund category, its prospectus objective, its equity style. Since MGK is an index fund, it's looking for other index funds. And here are 89 funds that fit those same criteria. So it really does a lot of that work for you. You don't have to build this screen out from scratch. You can further adjust it, modify it further, add further metric filters, bring in more columns, but it's really quick and easy to see that information. And if we'd like to, we could pin MGK here at the top so that we have it for easy comparison to the rest of this grouping. So really quick and easy to use that quick flows button. You'll see too, it does also have this comparison option. Works in the same way. If there are multiple different tickers that you want to enter in here for quick comparison, you'll be able to dig into some of that comparative analysis really quickly and easily without having to build it all yourself. So just scratching the surface here today in terms of some various different areas. We kind of talked through a general overview, touched on the different tiers, talked about the dashboard, the portfolios and report builder and the screeners within here. As you can see, there's a lot of different tools that we haven't even touched upon within the platform itself. That is something that myself or our team can always work with you on, answer any questions that you might have within there. We do also have live chat available here in the bottom right-hand corner for questions that might come up, but you'll also have this support drop down here. Support will first and foremost allow you to contact us. So you'll see within my account and any kind of StoneX clients accounts, they'll have my contact information within here to reach out. We'll also, though, have this tutorial section in the upper left-hand corner. So if you prefer to do self-learning and kind of take this at your own speed, you'll see this information will be within here. You'll have this tools and features section to begin with, which will break out all of the different tools within YCharts and give you quick bite-sized overviews and tutorials on that information. We'll also have this YCharts University and Skills Session section down here towards the bottom. These are going to be more so deeper dives and kind of putting workflows together within the platform. YCharts University is really, I'd say, applicable to when you're first coming on board with YCharts or you're getting familiar with the platform, want to see how different workflows can be accomplished or different objectives, I should say, can be accomplished. So acquiring clients and growing AUM, for instance, will be really specific to that presenter tier, since that's really what it's built for, kind of presenting YCharts information to help you win new business or kind of analyze client portfolios. And then maybe some more of that professional geared information with like analyzing securities for due diligence and some of this information within here. Skill sessions will take deep dives into the different tools. So you'll see it's going to go through those tools kind of top to bottom for you, let you know how they work and give you that deeper dive that you might not get with those kind of quick tools and features tutorials. As I mentioned, myself and my team are here to answer questions. I know this is even just a lot of information that we've covered in kind of this recording today. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll kind of finish with my contact information just right here. Feel free to always shoot me an email, give me a call. If you have any questions, please let me know. And thanks for listening today.